Hello and welcome, as it is the 15th day of February 2018. Everything within your own risk, own reward. Looking at Litecoin as at yesterday at 8:45 p.m. So we're going to go scroll through the next little bit. Actually, this is 2 days ago rather. So we're going to look at almost 48 hours worth of movements. Scroll it through as we notice the Fibonacci lines drawn in. When you're playing a game that I talk about as far as how to work within Fibonacci, let's go over this on the step-by-step measure. If you had a sell order barely below this number, well then that becomes really close to if it was correct or not. If it was barely below, you missed. If it was just a decent, nice tick below, you hit it. But my way of thinking oftentimes is if I'm happen to be watching the market and I know that I want to sell it around 210.05 and the market's at like 208, 207, if I haven't sold any yet, I'm probably just going to give in more times than not and just take that order a little lower than where I originally planned. Because if you had a sell order in here, it wouldn't work out. Let's move the market further. And by selling in here, if you didn't buy this and see the market go higher, you probably might consider, okay, I'm going to be buying again. And then you go up to this key fib point. You can look towards selling it again. Do you buy back here? I probably wouldn't. So in a situation like this, it's already made a statement. So it's already came up to it, had its higher low as expected, a bit stronger of a test on that level, and you have your consolidation period. And it keeps moving, not much is going on until all of this happens. So now again, this might be a spot you'd be looking to sell again. And when you see a market move like this, you already expect there to be quick moves to go from point A to point B or from fib zone 1 to the next one. And when you see a behavior like this, where after it makes it within just 3 periods to get to this green line, or whatever color line you make it, but to that fib level, and it follows through with a candle like this, now you have to give it the possibility. Is it going to support this level? Is it just going to keep on bursting to the next one? But it also could very easily go down too at this stage. And there you see how it was supporting it. Quick move higher. That's never a surprise. So when you are in this situation here, and as you're moving to the next period, if you see that momentum breaking higher, that's a telltale sign of what exactly happened, which was a move, of course, towards that next level. You finally have your first price correction within the 18 average on the 5-minute time frame, since of course its last decent move. But it also meant that what you bought or sold here at 5:40 a.m. was buy back. You could buy it back at 7:10 a.m. It took you an hour and a half to get it back. Continue on further, you could, what you bought here, you would resell again. And then see again, you're using this key level as support. Indication as this is breaking out above the 18 average of highs. No surprise that it's going to test that next level, which it did. And the general rule of thumb for me in this situation here, it's very difficult to state what the strength of resistance here is, because whenever you retest a key level and you have a successful correction, then the two things I think about, is it just going to blast off or maybe only just come maybe back down to here? Those are a lot of the things that I go over. These levels, especially the first times you get to it, become more strong in that sense. But there's a spot where there's the sell opportunity at this 235 handle. And you could have bought that back well over 5 minutes later, because on this period you could have got your sell order filled. And then this red one, not quite down enough to buy, However, whether you have a buy order or you waited for the price to come close enough to that point, the next following candle was your buyback playing within these lines. And of course, if you went deeper than that, you got a little bit better prices that became available. You had a longer consolidation, and now again, what you sold here, you can buy back down towards this level here. Keep on going within the sideways mannerism. And if you buy here, you really aren't going to do anything unless you come up here to sell, or you go to the next line below to buy. If you sold there, you did. I probably wouldn't have, but there you go. You sold, and the fast move. And when you see a situation as we do here, you got your sell order in, okay, and you see it going higher. And when you're like myself, if you're doing this, you kind of want to see it. You see a sell and then higher prices, because you're barely selling much to what you have when you're selling short term like this, of course. And you're selling multiple different Litecoins short term as well, because of all the different sell orders you need. You sell here, you sell some more. But within this candle here, technical analysis, you break through the resistance point, you have this candle exactly like this. It's almost like take a picture. This is a strong bullish sign. And it followed through exactly to such, as it went well past this level. And this is where you can use smart analysis to, like, do you really want to sell at that line? Because if a market in a spot, when you look at it as it's played, you go all the way up from this length in move, the length of correction. So you're breaking out from within this area. You would expect a decent sized leg from where this level is. Some may think, and that would be exactly what the case is, it has a huge move to the upside as it consolidates within such, and another one. Now, when it made it to this point here on the 250, and when I did the calculation before, we're looking at like a while ago, there's two fib upside levels, one around the 25 and again like around the 35 or 36 handle. So this is it's also a short-term level. All these levels are big short-term, but this is a monstrous, more bigger term level. So whatever sales sizes you were selling, this is a spot where you should be selling more than you were before. You're encountering a larger likelihood of resistance. Another strategy you may want to consider is to not really buy on the first few legs lower, albeit there's still nothing wrong with getting your short-term sale at 250 back, of course, down at the next lower level, which of course would have happened right there. Whether you would have got it, did your buy order hit? Did you get it executed in time? That's the big question. If not, you had a second chance. And as you can see, there's another buy order situation, and all of your bigger sales that you would have made here, because this is the much larger level, you're looking better for that particular trade, because the situation is always to look to buy it back at a much cheaper price. And now we see how it congested within this area. And if I talk about buying above and below the 18 average, there's been so many trades, but it's just so obvious that you buy as it was breaking down below this support at the this time frame here. You buy a bit here, and then at some point as it was breaking above, you would sell again further. And of course, any selling that was done within this line was bought back several periods later. Market continues to move. We are now dated this morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. And what we would be experiencing here at this stage is consistent support at this level, going down a few levels. We've basically checkmarked, yes, this more bigger term, not a short term that is, so more longer term resistance level has been such, because short term you only expect to have like 20-minute pullbacks and definitely smaller percentage moves. So as it continues to go lower, any type of short-term moves, it just means you're basically accumulating for the most part all the way down. There's not many selling opportunities. A lot of it you can state is grinding your way lower. If you miss this buy order in here, you got a chance to get it back, so it becomes so easy to accumulate. And here's how we stand at this stage. So there's your support again coming in within key Fibonacci. Selling here, okay. So what does this market tell us now? It's pretty darn near strong, I can tell you that. Because you come up to a key level, and all these lines have been working out so magnificently. So magnificent. And when you break it, you're just breaking it by more than a little bit. A lot. Not extreme, but a decent move above this line. So instead of resisting within this area, it has already supported it. And it has been doing so for the last 20 minutes. Okay, that's a very big indication. Because if this thing doesn't go now, is this one heck of a failed breakout? I think it will go, but it doesn't, just because I think it will doesn't mean it will. But because of this statement, and especially now as I'm looking at it as it's playing such a strong role within how this 18 average of highs is coming through, that if this doesn't break out to another leg higher, basically, failed move, fast move, we'd be looking at least to a move back down to the 210 level. We're going to see a lot of lines when I switch up this time frame, but for the more longer term spot, you have to look at it in the sense that you played this breakout to this sale. At what stage do you buy back? Even maybe you'd say 220 into here, but you would have been successful in the 250 sale, and you now have price action significantly lower. So therefore, to me, your buyback either should have been where the bottom was, which does indicate this first big resistance level. So I don't know why you'd want to go lower than that. Or what would be like this level here. But within this area does seem, just by looking at this, that is at the key point. You got a big one at this 187. That's a very deep retracement, because if the price action comes down here after such a fantastic breakout, then that's a definite large area for concern, especially if it does it so quickly. So therefore, if you played it, it should have worked, is basically what I'm trying to state within this. And that will be it, because I wanted to just show this on a really play-by-play level. We're at a stage where the volatility is movable within this, because oftentimes before this, it's just so boring. This just goes in a sideways manner. Very small profits available in most ways of day trading Litecoin, but there's a lot more movement, a lot more excitement, if you will, which is obviously the case when you consider its volume. Let's now actually take a look at this against the US dollar and Ethereum. Against Ether, this is the 5-minute time frame, so let's bring it to 400 minute. We had I circled this in here, fell through. We have, so I guess, circled down here, did a bunch of other things, but price action in here has had an interesting move so far. After this big time decline, as Litecoin prices really weren't going up and Ethereum was, now we see the opposite. And this is why when you take a look at any of the majors that you're holding and trading them against each other, it's not a bad idea. If you got a portfolio where you're holding Ethereum, Litecoin, Dash, and Monero, or whatever other major coins, even if you don't have an exchange against it, if you keep track of things like what the NXT ratio is against the Stratus coin, and those are two of your decent size holdings, because each coin can have unique up and down movements. You can make a lot of decent gains within either or both of those coins by trading it, even if you have to go through pay extra commission in the sense of, well, let's just assume you, let's just say SIA coin as one example. You sell it off to Bitcoin, and maybe you're playing, I don't know, Monero with it. You buy that with what you sell it for. So you have to do a couple extra trades. But when you're looking at the gains that you make, so be it. It can make you a lot of profits. And with Ethereum especially, you have so many other base markets. If that's one of you, like on Bittrex and Poloniex and probably a bunch of other exchanges, it's a very common market. Hopefully Litecoin will get to that stratosphere soon. That would be that'd be fantastic, if of course that's the case. I have not seen my sell order hit, so I haven't sold yet, at least within that move. I think I'm selling a little bit higher over the 3 number. But you can see all the potential gains just playing the up and down swings within these markets. Litecoin against the dollar, which right now is in at 222. I don't even have to draw a downtrend line, but you can see that there was an obvious resistance line that hit on each one of these peaks when it hit the 18 average of highs. And why do I need a trend line? The 18 average of highs does a fantastic job for those purposes. And when you have a bear market, sometimes you can't even get past much of the 18 average of closes, like in here. And if you do make it to the 18 average of highs, you get your quick sell-offs, or you just fiddle around with the 18 average of lows for a bunch of times. But after the last time it reached the 18 highs, okay, you had your 2 red candle down days. So at this stage, the band had done nothing to rise. At best, you can flatten out by staying within it. You can't go, in fact, the band has to flatten out if you don't go under it. And there you see an interesting day. Because in bear markets, you're not usually going to see it. You're usually going to see at most bullish, or at least amount of losses, a move down to the 18 lows, and even oftentimes piercing below that. Sort of like this hits the 18 average of highs at the end of January, red candle down, the next day it goes down below the 18 lows, it's the sideways day of movement, then big down. Here, that was not the case. And then you see, even after the sideways day before the rally, that was huge. The band had flattened out, and the sellers are obviously shown not to be in control of this market. No way, no how. And the buyers come in. So this is a statement. We were in a pattern of lower highs and lower lows. Some of the last key highs was in at 174 and change, and before that at 197, but we'll say 2. And now it's at 222. So it's obviously taken out 3 when you count the 215 lower high in here. It's taken out 3 lower highs within this move thus far. So it either tells you one of 2 things. One, it's just starting the reversal of trend. When you're in the early positions like this, it becomes very difficult for me to determine if we're first going to get a decent price correction that would meet up somewhere within the 18 average band. And we can see right now that would be close to about 180. But when we consider the 18 average of lows, any short-term pullback to about even 160-ish, to me that's very normal on many bull market trends that are in the early stages, reverting it over, because resistance has already been established. That's already done. Stage 1, band flatten out. Stage 2, establish resistance. And now stage 3 has come back to that band. Now, it doesn't always have to do stage 3, because the secret to technical analysis, when you get to big areas where you're supposed to stop going up or down, which means you're at resistance or support, and you really don't do that, and you, within its time frame, if it's not resistance, and in this case, then you could be in line for what would normally be a large gain fast. So we'd be looking at about a move close to 300 in probably like 8 hours or less. And I don't know, again, if it's going to do that or if it's going to have some sort of correctionary move before it does it. But the situation is one of two. It's either the early stages to the reversal of trend, and I've shown you the two ways in which it's going to continue from this point on, or failed move, fast move, which means it's going to show you the next stage of coming back to the band. But if it fails the band test, then you got to be considering what would be a failed move. Or if it doesn't go up or much at all, and then it starts to have some sort of pattern of this nature, anything that makes the 18 average quickly roll over and look negative will then be showing you failed move, fast move is occurring. Again, I think it's really unlikely for that to be the case. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a magnificent day. Bye-bye.